Good morning and welcome. I'm Anaiah Weese. I'm 17, I'm not a parent. But I do know one thing about parents. They have to make decisions every single day. Some are simple, such as, what color should I paint the nursery? And what food should I send for lunch today? But other decisions hold much more weight. Parents have to decide where their child will go to school, when their child can get a phone, how often their child can hang out with friends, and much, much more. All of these have an effect on the child's life, whether large or small. Some choices can even cause or prevent death. At some point, all parents must decide whether or not to vaccinate their children, and if so, what immunizations to include. To keep their child safe and healthy, parents should follow the standard vaccination schedule. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I'd like to give a quick disclaimer that my speech is not addressing the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I'd like to answer 3 common questions. What is a vaccine? What are the routine vaccines? And what is the history of vaccines? First, to define a vaccine. The World Health Organization defines the term vaccination as a simple, safe, and effective way of protecting you against harmful diseases before you come into contact with them. Although the surface-level definition may work for most conversations, we need to look a bit deeper. Biologist and medical author Tish Davidson writes in her book, The Vaccine Debate, that vaccines work due to the presence of modified pathogen antigens in the vaccine. Some vaccines contain killed or inactivated versions of the pathogen itself. Others are genetically engineered so that only antigens from the pathogen and not the whole pathogen are used. Basically, vaccines work by exposing the body to dead, weakened, partial, or artificial viral cells. By doing so, the human body is able to build up antibodies without actually contracting the illness. Second, I need to explain routine childhood vaccines. These are the set of vaccines recommended to immunize children against several severe sicknesses. Based on the list from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, more commonly known as the CDC, the standard vaccination schedule includes numerous common and rare diseases, including hepatitis A, hepatitis B, measles, mumps, and human papillomavirus. An entire list can be seen on the screen. Finally, let's take a look at the history of vaccines. Although modern vaccines are fairly new, the idea of immunizing people against diseases has been around for ages. As early as 1000 CE, physicians would inject smallpox bacteria into a healthy patient, hoping to develop a mild case of smallpox. By doing so, a patient could recover with few severe symptoms in order to gain immunity to the disease. This practice, known as variolation, was practiced throughout China, Africa, and Turkey. Later, in 1796, British physician Edward Jenner created a more sophisticated vaccine by using the contents of a cowpox pustule to immunize against smallpox. In the following years, these ideas were refined as scientists continued to research immunizations. The research allowed for immunizations against rabies, diphtheria, tetanus, anthrax, cholera, plague, typhoid, tuberculosis, and more. In modern years, vaccines have grown more safe and more efficient with advances in technology and comprehension. Now that I've defined the most common terms and answered the most common questions, we can continue on. Today, I will discuss the historical context, the importance, the components, the safety, and finally, the morality of vaccines. Over time, vaccines have saved numerous lives, cementing their position as one of the most beneficial scientific advancements. Thanks to vaccines, smallpox was eradicated in 1980. Up until that point, smallpox killed as many as 1/3 of the people it infected and left many survivors disabled or disfigured. Between 1880 and 1980, an estimated 500 million people died of the disease. Without vaccines, millions more people would have succumbed to the illness. Likewise, polio, another horrendous disease, has been controlled due to vaccines. According to the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, wild poliovirus was declared eliminated from the Americas in September 1994, making the Americas the first World Health Organization region to meet the goal of polio elimination. Because of these immunizations, both North and South America were able to fully eradicate polio. However, cases have still been found around the globe. Because of these risks, Davidson urges parents to vaccinate their children, as the disease can be brought into the country by travelers from places where it still exists. Besides these rare illnesses, vaccines have reduced numerous other diseases. Dr. Scott James, a pediatric physician, writes in his article, Vaccination and the Christian Worldview, that vaccines cause 93 to 99% reduction in reported cases of chickenpox, measles, mumps, rubella, rotavirus, pneumococcus, Haemophilus influenza type B, pertussis, and tetanus, and diphtheria in the US. Just as seatbelts have saved hundreds and thousands of lives throughout the US, but cannot prevent every single car crash-related death, vaccines have drastically dropped the number of disease cases, but cannot always fully eradicate every single one. Vaccines have greatly improved health conditions, and as a result, are now considered one of the greatest improvements in medicine. Besides the importance of protecting their own children, parents should vaccinate their children in order to establish herd immunity and protect others. But what is herd immunity? Dr. Gretchen LaSalle, a family physician, defines herd immunity as resistance to the spread of a contagious disease that results if a sufficiently high number of people are immune to the disease. In short, herd immunity is when enough people are immune to a disease, whether through vaccination or natural means, in order to break the chains of transmission. However, if too few people are vaccinated, a virus can easily sweep through a population instead of being contained to a small area. This was seen during the 2017 measles outbreak in a community in Minnesota. Although vaccines can easily prevent measles, measles still coursed through the community since the area had not yet achieved herd immunity. Because of the importance of herd immunity, parents need to think not just of themselves, but the entire population when deciding on vaccines. According to professors of pediatrics at the Anaiah University School of Medicine, the benefits of herd immunity extend to those who cannot themselves be vaccinated, the immunocompromised, those for whom immunity may have gradually worn off over time, or those who have an incomplete vaccination status. Because of the many people immunocompromised or unable to receive vaccines, those who can be vaccinated ought to be. And what if your child were immunocompromised? Would you want other parents to refuse to vaccinate their children? It is incredibly important that parents vaccinate their children to protect as many people as possible. By now, some of you may understand why vaccines are helpful, but still have many concerns regarding them. Despite common worries over vaccine ingredients, the components are both safe and necessary. I will discuss some of these controversial components, including aluminum, formaldehyde, antibiotics, stabilizers, and preservatives. First, many people are concerned by aluminum salts. However, they're harmless and play an important role in immunizations. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, commonly referred to as the FDA, aluminum salts are incorporated into some vaccine formulations as an adjuvant. An adjuvant is a substance added to some vaccines to enhance the immune response of vaccinated individuals. The aluminum salts in some U.S. licensed vaccines are aluminum hydroxide, aluminum phosphate, alum, or mixed aluminum salts. By incorporating aluminum, scientists are able to bolster the effectiveness of vaccines. Moreover, people consume aluminum on a daily basis. On average, an American adult intakes 24 milligrams of aluminum, whereas a single dose of a vaccine only contains 0.85 to 1.25 milligrams of aluminum. People constantly consume aluminum, so why do they only worry about it in vaccines? After all, if people respond well to a daily intake of a vastly larger amount of aluminum, why would they respond poorly to a single small dose of aluminum? Likewise, Dr. Robert Frank, director for the Center for Vaccine Research at Cincinnati Children's, stated in his interview with me, the amount of aluminum in vaccines is less than the amount babies get in breast milk, and that everyone agrees that breastfeeding is one of the best things you can do for babies. Clearly, aluminum does not irritate the human body, whether adult, adolescent, or infant. Second, another common ingredient, formaldehyde, worries many people but keeps vaccines safe. Formaldehyde is used to inactivate viruses so they don't cause disease and to detoxify bacterial toxins such as the toxin used to make the diphtheria vaccine. Without formaldehyde, people would actually have a much higher risk for complications. Moreover, to ensure safety, the formaldehyde is diluted during the vaccine manufacturing process. Just as with aluminum, People consume formaldehyde on a regular basis. And not only ingest formaldehyde, our bodies even produce it. When the body breaks down formaldehyde, it does not distinguish between formaldehyde from vaccines and that which is naturally produced or environmental. For all of these reasons, people can safely receive vaccines which contain formaldehyde. Third, many people are concerned by antibiotics, but all the antibiotics used within vaccines are incredibly low allergen. Davidson states, in some vaccines, small amounts of antibiotics are used to prevent bacterial and fungal contamination. Because a significant number of people are allergic to penicillins, cephalosporins, and sulfa drugs, these antibiotics are not used in vaccines. Instead, neomycin, polymyxin B, streptomycin, and gentamicin, all antibiotics that are less likely to cause an allergic reaction, are used for contamination control. These antibiotics drastically decrease the chance of infections. Fourth, stabilizers protect vaccines from physical damage. According to Davidson, they help protect vaccines during the freeze-drying process, shield them against changes in temperature, and maintain their potency. In a way, you can think of stabilizers as bubble wrap for vaccines. Likewise, all of these stabilizers are harmless. In fact, most are sugars and proteins found in many foods and drugs. Clearly, these components benefit vaccines and don't cause issues for humans. Fifth, developers use safe preservatives to prevent fungal or bacterial growth. Only 4 chemical preservatives are licensed for use in vaccines in the United States as of 2018. Phenol, 2-phenoxyethanol, thimerosal, and benzethonium chloride. Despite their long and difficult names, all 4 preservatives work effectively and safely. However, false controversy continues to malign thimerosal. In 1998, the idea that vaccines caused autism gained popularity after the release of a study by Andrew Wakefield that suggested that vaccination, specifically the mercury in the form of thimerosal, was linked to the development of autism. Soon after the study was released, the research was subsequently debunked, and the author of the 1998 study was stripped of his medical license for falsifying data. Even though the medical community acted quickly in both debunking his research and stripping his medical license, the damage had already been done. All around the globe, people began to associate vaccines with autism. Over the last 2 decades, researchers have continued to study thimerosal, but have found no connection between it and autism. Regardless of the controversy, preservatives protect people and vaccines. Evidently, all of these components greatly assist vaccines without harming people. Just as many parents worry about vaccine ingredients, many also worry about health complications after vaccines. But these worries are unfounded, as vaccines cause fewer issues than the targeted illness, and scientists continue developing immunizations. While vaccines do have potential side effects, they're all extremely rare. As an example, let's take a look at the smallpox vaccine. Smallpox, one of the deadliest illnesses known to humankind, has a mortality rate of 30 to 40%. When the first smallpox vaccine was created, humanity rejoiced. However, this life-saving vaccine still had numerous side effects, the most of any vaccine. According to the College of Physicians of Philadelphia, these included dangerous issues such as serious eye infection, rash on entire body, encephalitis, severe infection beginning at the vaccination site, and death. Although extremely dangerous, they are all extremely rare. For every 1 million people vaccinated for smallpox, between 14 and 52 could have a life-threatening reaction to the smallpox vaccine. That means less than 0.0052% of people could potentially have a lethal side effect. Even with these incredibly low numbers, the smallpox vaccine still has the most side effects and the highest mortality rate of any vaccine. This means that any vaccine given to your child will have far fewer side effects. Even the most dangerous vaccine has saved hundreds and thousands of lives. Moreover, vaccines undergo extensive testing before reaching the market, and even then are watched for potential side effects. Dr. Gretchen LaSalle notes that vaccines are some of the most thoroughly studied products brought to the market. They undergo rigorous testing and oversight from both public and private organizations. But even after the vaccine is released, these vaccines still face post-licensure monitoring. These measures protect people by ensuring vaccine safety. Clearly, parents need not worry about the safety of receiving vaccines. Another common worry for Christian parents considering vaccinating their children is the morality of using a vaccine that uses fetal stem cells. However, use can still be reconciled from a biblical worldview. It is true that many vaccines use fetal cells. According to Dr. Paul Offit, director of the Vaccine Education Center and an attending physician in the Division of Infectious Diseases at Children's Hospital Philadelphia, notes that vaccines for varicella, rubella, hepatitis A, rabies, and COVID-19 are all made by growing the virus in fetal cells. These vaccines require fetal cells to dramatically improve their efficacy. Offit states that viruses need cells to grow and tend to grow better in cells from humans than animals because they infect humans. As a result, vaccine viruses must be grown on human cells. Likewise, these cells must be fetal. According to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, fetal cells are so important since they were isolated from the sterile environment in the womb. This meant that cells would not be infected with other viruses, and the vaccine produced in the cells would not inadvertently introduce any other viruses. As a result, adult stem cells cannot be used as they may be contaminated with additional diseases. Moreover, all fetal cells stem from 2 abortions that took place in the 1960s. These cell lines, MRC5 and WI38, were elective but were not expletive with respect to these cell lines, meaning that the abortions occurred for reasons other than the collection of tissue. As the abortions had already occurred, the medical community can redeem a sad and sinful action to save numerous lives. Furthermore, MRC5 and WI38 cell stalks can be propagated in perpetuity and do not require any additional fetal tissue. Since they can be kept alive indefinitely, the researchers continue to use fetal cells without killing more children. Moreover, the Bible clearly shows that God uses past wrongs for good purposes. This is seen in Genesis 50:20, which states, "As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today." In his glory, God allows advancements from horrendous events in the past. While some vaccines do use fetal cells, a biblical worldview still supports their use. Likewise, many parents also worry about the morality of the human papillomavirus vaccines. However, it does not go against any biblical principle and should still be given. Due to its high infection rate and numerous symptoms, human papillomavirus, or HPV, is a dangerous sexually transmitted infection, or STI. According to the CDC, HPV is the most common STI in the United States, and approximately 43 million people had it as of 2018 in the US alone. That means over 13.2% of the population, or 1 in every 8 people, has HPV in the US. A person may not even realize they've contracted it and could infect many other people, as a person with HPV can pass the infection to someone even when they have no signs or symptoms. HPV also comes with a myriad of problems, including genital warts and cancers. These health problems drastically decrease a person's quality of life. And in the cases of cancer, HPV can even cause death. Many parents believe that their child, as a Christian, has no risk for contracting HPV. However, parents must recognize that their child may fall into sin or be violated by someone else's sin. Finally, HPV spreads through skin-to-skin contact, and the virus can be left on contaminated surfaces. This means that the disease can be contracted without sexual intercourse. Suddenly, something as mundane as changing your clothes at the gym can leave a person at risk. Because of the risks of HPV, parents ought to vaccinate their children even if they believe the child is at no risk for STIs. In conclusion, parents, and especially Christian parents, would be wise to vaccinate their children. Throughout recent history, vaccines have saved countless lives. Not only do immunizations protect the people who receive them, but they also protect the society as a whole when herd immunity is achieved. Moreover, vaccines only contain necessary and harmless ingredients. And although many are concerned by vaccination risks, they have very few side effects and certainly fewer than the targeted illness. Finally, from a Christian worldview, receiving vaccination is moral. For this plethora of reasons, if you're a parent or will be in the future, please vaccinate your children. Thank you.